lot of time, but I'm not complaining.
I've been playing those clips for people. Some of them shut it down immediately. Too heavy, too much screaming, just totally not for me. And some are like, well, there's something in that. I don't know what it is, but there's something there. And those two reactions are very different. And that's where I want to start in today's episode. Hey, I'm David, and this is Deeper Theology, where we explore culture. We look at movies, music, the moments we find ourselves in, and ask questions. What are they shaping us into? What do they say about us? What are we expressing without even realizing it? The theological and psychological forces at work here are probably deeper than we think. Those three clips belong to someone who goes by the name Mafra. I got the shirt. No last name, no verified identity. What we know is she covers heavy metal songs, metalcore, post-hardcore songs. And she does so at a level that's just gotten the attention of millions. Her cover of Bring Me the Horizon's Doomed hit #1 on Billboard Hot Hard Rock Songs chart. It has over 15 million views right now. Her cover of Spiritbox's Circle With Me has over 7 million views. And she said publicly that she's dealt with depression, that she's always been a quiet person. In her words, finally opening up to the world and embracing who I am by sharing my voice. Interesting that a woman who describes herself as quiet, who has struggled with depression, has found her voice in one of the loudest genres of music that exists. Why here? Why, of every genre, every form of expression available to her, why is this the one that unlocks something? Before we try to answer that, I need to be honest about something that might already be in the way for some of us. The concern some Christians have about this kind of music, it's not stupid, although some people would probably classify it as that, and it's not automatically legalism. The screaming is real. The distortion is intentional. Some of the imagery in this genre is dark, it's violent, and designed to be unsettling. There are bands whose art is genuinely nihilistic, performing despair not as a lament, but as a lifestyle. And that's a real distinction. And if you felt that and decided it isn't for you, I'm not here to argue with you. But I do want to name something I think is underneath the objection for a lot of people. And I'm not sure we've always been honest about it. The church has historically been uncomfortable with art it can't supervise. Not just metalcore, jazz, blues, rock and roll of the 50s, Elvis shaking his leg, even gospel music. Actual like black congregational gospel music was a controversy in white churches for decades. Not because of the theology, but because of the sound and the feeling, because the body was involved in a way that made certain people nervous. And every generation has a sound that gets called dangerous, and usually the thing being protected isn't doctrine, it's preference. So here's the question I want to try to carry through the rest of this episode. Not the question, is this music acceptable? But what if we've been so focused on the sound that we forgot to listen to what was being said? If you look at the screaming out of most of these songs, clean up the vocal, smooth out the distortion, a lot of people would probably say, oh, that's actually a good song. And it is. But something would be missing. So what is the screaming doing that clean vocals just don't? Here's one way to think about it. Maybe the scream is what happens when the content is just too much for clean vocals to carry. And there actually might be a category for this in Scripture. The Psalms do things that the rest of the Bible doesn't. They curse. They accuse God of forgetting. Psalms 88, when it ends, and this is the only psalm that does this, it ends in total darkness. No resolution, no but God statement. Listen to some of what it says in Psalm 88. I'm overwhelmed with troubles, and my life draws near to death. I'm counted among those who go down to the pit. I'm like one deprived of strength. I'm set apart with the dead. Like the slain who lie in the grave, whom you remember no more, who are cut off from your care. And it doesn't really get any better. The psalmist just keeps going, and at the very end, there's no turn. There's no, oh, but just this. It ends with this statement. Darkness is my closest friend. Nobody reads Psalms 88 and says, that sounds like a worship song. We have the lyrics to these Psalms. We don't have recordings. We don't have any musical notation. We don't have any dynamic markings when to sing loud or sing soft or how fast to sing. No record of what David's voice actually sounded like when he sang some of them. We don't know that they weren't screamed. And maybe that's worth admitting before we decide what worship is allowed to sound like, or what worship is allowed to say. Because some of what's in the Psalms and in Job isn't praise, it's accusation, it's wrestling. Job essentially tells God, you're not being fair. The psalmist asks God why he's sleeping, why he's hiding his face, and God doesn't shut it down. Worship music asks hard questions sometimes too. There's that song Oceans, which is pretty popular. It's been around for a while. And the lyrics in that say, talking to God, you call me out upon the waters, where feet may fail and fear surrounds me. That's not a comfortable place, but arrives in a form we've already approved. A melody, a worship team, a Sunday morning, and what happens when the same cry, the same honesty arrives in a form we haven't approved. Let's talk about Circle With Me. This song was written by Courtney LaPlante, the vocalist for Spirit Box. She grew up in a devout Catholic home at first and then evangelical. And she's not practicing now, but she's talked about using Christian imagery deliberately. She calls it the most powerful imagery available to her. Her own description of this song, she's writing as her depression, as the voice inside her that tells her she's not good enough. Her devil, that's her word, telling her to compromise who she is. And the reward is that all of this can be yours.
This could all be yours. Feel the weight of the moment. It could all be yours if you echo words of pain. Try to cut down the altar. It could all be yours, but you're circling the flame.
This is very, very similar to Luke chapter 4 in the wilderness, and the devil takes him to a high place and shows him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And he says, I will give you all their authority and splendor if you will worship me. If you'll worship me, it will all be yours. Here's what we don't talk about enough. That had to be genuinely tempting. You know, it's not temptation if it's not attractive. You can't tempt me with Brussels sprouts because I can't stand them. But if there's a bowl of chocolate ice cream, I might give in. So you can't tempt people with something that they don't want. And the alternative road that Jesus was on, the other option in front of him was the cross. The offer wasn't just power, it was a shortcut bypassing suffering. And that had to look good. It had to appeal to something real in him. Otherwise, it's not a temptation. Now look at what LaPlante's song is doing. It's not looking at temptation from the outside. It's actually putting you inside of it, where the voice knows exactly what you would reach for if you had the opportunity, where the offer looks like your own ambition, where the altar you climb feels like your rightful place. Most of the time when we talk about temptation in church, we kind of talk about it from a distance, a safe distance. Here's what the enemy does over there, and here's how to resist it over here, and they're put on the full armor of God. It's very tactical and very instructional. Could it be that this song is doing something different? Could it be putting a listener inside the structure of the temptation itself and making them feel what it's like to want to say yes? You know, James 1:14 says, each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desires. Not pushed from outside, but dragged from within. Now, LaPlante isn't writing theology, but what if she's describing something that James understood? that the most dangerous voice in your life might actually be the one in your head that already knows what you want. And I wonder what it means that millions of people heard that description. Something in it resonated, and many of them have never read James. Feeling the pull of temptation is only half the story. What about the people who already said yes and found out the deal didn't hold? Oliver Sykes from the band Bring Me the Horizon in 2013, publicly atheist, said he didn't think believing in God was a victimless crime, and he called for abolishing all organized religion. He also had a drug addiction that was, by his account, killing him. But he did get sober, and something changed in his life. Not necessarily a conversion, not a prayer, but something that he's described as a spiritual awakening. By 2021, he's saying, I think it's important to believe in something higher and bigger than yourself. Doomed was written in the middle of that shift, the opening track to their album called That's the Spirit, and it starts exactly where you'd expect. I think we're finished. I think it's over, and there's no way back. There's a line in that song that Sykes explains where he says the devil kept the receipt. He thought he had sold his soul to the devil, but the deal fell through, and even darkness wouldn't claim him.
You must have made some kind of mistake. I asked for death, but instead I'm awake. The devil told me no room for cheats. I thought I'd sold my soul, but he kept the receipt. You can have my heart.
He reaches the bottom of the nihilistic logic, the place where if nothing matters, then nothing matters, including whether you survive. And he finds that even there, something in him is still reaching. Is that the gospel? Maybe, not exactly, but it sure rhymes with something that seems really close to that. Now, there's a theological concept called prevenient grace. It's the idea that God is already moving towards a person before that person turns around. That the hunger for something more, even in someone who's sworn off the whole thing, is not just biological. Now, I'm not declaring what Sykes experienced, so I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but I notice the shape of what he's describing, and the shape of it looks awfully familiar. What do you do with someone who rejects everything you believe and then describes an experience that you recognize? What do you call it when the deal falls through and something catches them at the bottom and they don't have a name for it either? And what happens to someone who survives that, who comes out on the other side but doesn't use the word God for what caught them? Landon Tewers from the band The Plot in You started in a Christian post-hardcore band. The band's name came from Romans chapter 3, verse 18, where it says, there's no fear of God before their eyes. The band's name was Before Their Eyes. He left to focus on The Plot in You, and what followed was years of public, angry deconstruction. Album titles that read like accusations, songs that read like a man burning down a house to see if anything survives the fire. And then, in 2025, he writes Silence. His own words, a meditation on growing older, more confident, and at peace. Trusting the process, not fighting the current. And after everything he burned down, that's where he arrived. Not back at church, not back at a doctrine, but at peace. And the song ends with a line that's repeated twice. It means you never had control. It means you never had control. That's a self-reflection. That means he is saying that I was never in control to begin with.
'Cause I'm dying to live, not been through the void, and I'll celebrate the hope to justify the darkest times means you never had control. Means you never had control.
Proverbs 3:5-6 encourages people to trust in the Lord with all their hearts and to not lean on their own understanding. Tours didn't use that language, and he's not claiming to have come back to anything. But the shape of what he arrived at after deconstruction, after anger, after all that searching, does it look familiar? Did he find something and just not have the language for it? I don't know, but I notice what the shape looks like, and the shape looks a lot like surrender. There's one more musical lyric I want to go back to that we haven't covered yet, and I just can't stop thinking about it. This is back in the song Circle With Me, and to be honest, I just can't stop listening to that song. The song is about temptation, and there's a moment in the bridge, as Mafra's singing it, that the lyrics go, "With all the power of a dying sun, I climb the altar and I claim my place as God." I claim my place as God. That's the line what started all of this for me. I mean, not just this episode, but the whole Deeper Theology podcast idea. I was listening to the music. I was completely enthralled with Mafra's skill, her ability to deliver so much emotion in these songs. And I'm listening to that one song and I'm genuinely asking the question, what is this song saying? I started looking up the words and I started doing research, and that led me to LaPlante, and that led me to these other things, and that led me to understand better the song, because that's not just a lyric about ambition. What if that's Isaiah 14 coming out, where it says, "I will make myself like the Most High," the creature climbing the throne that isn't rightfully theirs? What if that is actually the fall? And LaPlante frames it not as triumph, but as collapse. The thing the voice has been promising you, this could all be yours, leads to this place. To a person standing on a sacred object, calling themselves God. And then there's that line right before it, "a dying sun." But when you hear it, especially for someone who grew up in the church, who knows what that language carries, you might hear something else. A dying sun. Now, I'm not saying that's what she intended. I honestly don't know. But I do notice it fits. A dying son who was placed on a cross. And the psalm, as he quoted from the cross, that Jesus quoted, wasn't a psalm of comfort. It was Psalm 22. My God, why have you forsaken me?" That's the dying son's own words, and they don't sound like a joyful hymn to sing in church. They actually sound more like a scream. A quiet woman who struggled with depression found her voice in the loudest music there is. And the songs she chooses to sing, out of everything she could have covered, traces an arc, in these three at least, that starts with temptation, passes through despair, and arrives at something that looks like surrender. These are not anti-Christian outcomes. They just arrive through a different door than most Sunday school curricula would suggest. And it begs the question, shouldn't we be more interested in what someone may be wrestling with inside themselves than what they look like or sound like when they come through the door? And I wonder, if someone showed up at your church carrying what these songs carry, the honesty, the despair, the raw, unfiltered cry of someone who isn't okay, would there be a place for them? If these are the kinds of conversations you want more of, subscribe. Also click like. It's the simplest way to help someone else find their way into these discussions. I went pretty deep into one of these. Any one of them could be a full episode on its own. If there's some other topic you'd like to cover, please let me know. I would love for your input to help guide where this channel goes. I'm David, and this is Deeper Theology. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.